And I hope we have Ms. Miller joining us shortly, but in the interest of punctuality, we'll begin. I do see that we have all but one members of council present, so we do have a quorum. We'll begin tonight with a invocation, and since Ms. Miller is not here, or not here yet anyway, she's coming in the door. Well, we'll hold on then. If we can beg everybody's indulgence just a moment. Call it the privilege of seniority. Hi there, Miss Miller. Ms. Miller, just before you joined us, I just called us to order. First up on tonight's agenda is an invocation led by you. And then I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll go on from there. If you all please stand.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord, for this new year 2026. We thank you, Lord, for life, health, and strength. We ask you a blessing upon this council and council all over the land. Lord, lead, guide, and direct our every footstep. We thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. We are blessed and highly favored. Lord, as you be in the midst of this meeting, let us agree to disagree in love and do what is best for the citizens of this town. Lead, guide, and direct us as you would have us to go. Bless the people that's here, the citizens that's here. Bless our mayor, bless the council. Lead, guide, and direct us as you would have us to go. These are our little blessings we ask in your son, Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. I have just a few remarks and updates for the members of council and for the community. First of all, since we last met, the city participated in the Martin Luther King weekend celebration that included a number of events, including an event that was held at Sanders Middle School that was hosted in cooperation with the Sanders Alumni Association. And I want to pay special attention to that group and show appreciation for their leadership and commitment to honoring Dr. King's legacy. Their theme for this year was, how can we make Dr. King's dream become a reality? And it was really inspiring to hear young people from all across Lawrence School District 55 who had prepared essays and competed in an oratory competition deliver remarks. And their remarks were truly inspiring. So I want to thank all those young people who participated, all the community members who participated and showed up for that event, and for the members of council who were present for that. Winter Storm Fern. We have, for the most part, gotten through unscathed. I do want to pay special tribute to our city staff who began preparing for that event well in advance of the storm, and at the time we were looking at significantly worse conditions than we actually experienced. But there was an incredible amount of communication across city departments at a level really that we have not seen before. We saw a lot of lessons learned from Helene put into practice. And with that said, there was daily communication with Lawrence CPW and Lawrence County Emergency Management. I want to pay particular thanks to Lawrence County for stepping up the county's efforts to communicate with the public and to communicate with us so that we can be better prepared. In these sorts of situations, the county takes the lead with emergency management, but it's great to have a partner who is working out and communicating. We did our best to provide regular updates to the public and provide those through the city's official communications channels. We monitored conditions in real time and adjusted those as needed. But I really appreciate all the city staff and our community partners who worked so well together to make that event as least impactful as it possibly could have been, and frankly to prepare for other events in the future which may impact us more significantly. The reason we're here tonight as opposed to a week ago, obviously, is because last week on Tuesday, the Municipal Association of South Carolina held its Hometown Legislative Action Day in Columbia. And several members of council joined me down in Columbia to take part in that. We heard some great speakers. I always take note when Ms. Miller leads us in prayer when she asks for grace that we agree to disagree and do so in love. And that really was sort of the theme of the discussion at our general session, to focus on civil discourse and to do so in a respectful way. And maybe now more than ever, that's a message people all across our state and all across our nation, for that matter, need to hear. There are also sessions offering information on federal earmark process, legislative updates, and discussion about the future of infrastructure in South Carolina, specifically the South Carolina Department of Transportation's efforts to modernize. There is an ad hoc committee that has been established by the South Carolina House to study that issue, and they've elicited feedback from cities all across the state on our experiences with DOT. And many residents of the city may not know that South Carolina has, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the third largest state road system in the nation. That means more streets in our city and cities like ours all across the state are actually owned and maintained by DOT than most states across the nation. And so while something may seem like a city issue, we're forced to, or maybe that's not the right word. The system calls upon us to work with our neighbors at DOT to get those issues addressed. But obviously we, leaders at the state level, have seen the need to modernize that system. And I appreciate the opportunity for members of our city council and cities all across the state to work through the Municipal Association to give input as that process goes along, because whatever the future of DOT is, South Carolina cities need to have a seat at the table. It is my great pleasure to share that movies are back at the Capitol Theater, and rather than doing that as a sporadic, periodic, special thing, we now have a licensing agreement in place to have movies shown there, and the plan at this point is to show those on the second and fourth Friday of each month. We want to get the word out there about that because we want to make that a regular part of people's routine for entertainment. Stay in town. Those movies are free. Here's what we ask of you. Go to dinner somewhere. Go out, support a local business, and then come see a movie. It's just one way that we think that we can encourage folks to spend their money in Laurens, keep that money in Laurens, and improve the vibrancy of our downtown. If you're interested in what's showing, you can look on City's special events page or look on City's social media, this Friday, the Minecraft movie is showing. It was scheduled for last week, but it got rescheduled because of the storm. But if you're into Minecraft, you can come on out on Friday. I'm very pleased to announce that we have at long last gotten in all that is necessary to receive a grant for a generator or generators as part of the Hurricane Helene recovery. One of the things that we saw was that there is no generator at City Hall, and the generator here at the municipal building is out of date. And so we've applied for a grant, and that was a arduous process to be able to get that in, but we're very hopeful about our prospects of receiving that. I will say I can share that as of this afternoon, I received an email from FEMA, and we have more than $900,000 in award funds that have been obligated to the city, which is tremendous, tremendous. The Lawrence County Museum has reached out to us and asked us to share that there will be a new traveling exhibit that opened the last week in the celebration of Black History Month. It's a partnership with South Carolina State Museum, and it highlights the 521 All-Stars, a historic black baseball league in South Carolina, and it tells the story of baseball and culture and community. We're excited about that. Museum is doing great things and really serving as a force for good in our community. I'm also pleased to share that after well more than a decade, close to 2 of sitting vacant, the old River Tracks restaurant will be having its grand opening and ribbon cutting. Javi's River Mexican Restaurant, that's Friday, January 30th at 11 a.m., and that's located at 345 East Main Street. It is so great to see life back in that building after years of effort to bring that space back to life. So we're excited to celebrate with them. The city received a significant infusion of funds from the county in its first county tax distribution for the week of January 12th. And as property taxes come in, we anticipate further payments from the county. I want to share with council that we've established a council conference room on the first floor of City Hall. So that space is dedicated on the first floor for council use and to provide space for members of council to meet with constituents and pick up mail and utilize as needed. And when it's not being used by city council, it provides a space, sort of a floating meeting room for members of staff to be able to meet with residents and business owners if they come to City Hall and they have business that is of the type that really doesn't need to be discussed in the lobby. We have a space to do that that's a bit more private. We are very pleased that the concrete work, which was ongoing at the Streets and Sanitation Headquarters, has been completed. We have filed an insurance claim related to some water damage outside a bathroom in the fire department, so we're looking forward to having necessary repairs done there. And I'm happy to confirm to City Council that I will be calling a special workshop of council to meet and provide whatever information is needed regarding any budget issues or operational issues in sort of a collaborative way, so everybody's clear about what their expectations of the administration are and the administration's understanding of what council's desires and concerns might be. So communication is the key, and I'm committed to making sure that that happens. That's all the announcements I have. So that brings us to the first item up on tonight's agenda. The public comment period. I don't believe anybody signed up to speak. Is that correct? All right. Moving on, we have the items included in the consent agenda, which would be approval of tonight's minutes. Tonight's agenda and the minutes from the regular council member meeting of December 16th and the minutes from the special called meeting of December 23rd. We are not yet 30 days out from the meeting, the special called meeting, which took place on December 31st. I've spoken with the clerk. She's still preparing those notes, and they will be provided to council at our next meeting. Do I hear any motions concerning the consent agenda?
I move to amend the consent agenda, to include one, approval of minutes from the December 31st special call meeting. An item allowing closing remarks, announcement, or request by city council members prior to adjournment, and to approve the consent agenda as amended.
If the items in the consent agenda are not approved as in total, they are not part of a consent agenda and therefore must be considered individually. So we'll have to take each of those in turn.
Say that again, please.
The items of the consent agenda are included in the interest of saving time about matters for which there is no dispute, for lack of a better term. So if the items are not approved as a bundle, they would each be addressed separately in turn. So if you're seeking to amend it, then that means that we don't have consent.
I'm trying to amend it with updates. Is that good? So I want to keep what we have, but with updates.
We can do that. We'll just need to address it one by one.
Okay.
All right. So first before us is approval of tonight's agenda. Do I hear any motions concerning approval of tonight's agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda, with additions of the minutes from December the 31st.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda, adding an agenda item to approve minutes from December 31st.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Ms. Sullivan took it upon herself to prepare minutes for December 31st. Those were provided in paper form just before this meeting was called to order. They have not been published or provided to the public, nor prepared by the city clerk in the normal course of business. Is there any discussion regarding Ms. Sullivan's motion to amend the agenda for tonight? Ms. Sullivan, would you care to address why we would be approving these rather than
It just
the normal
states-
minutes prepared by the clerk?
It just states that, the attendance personnel and the, information that was carried is no other business on there. We have a couple of minutes to read over them silently. If you would like to
The-
see if there's something
Ms. Sullivan, just as a point of order, the motion before us is a motion to amend tonight's agenda. The discussion of the minutes as you presented them is not before council. It is the motion to amend tonight's agenda to include approval of the minutes that you prepared.
Yes, I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
All right.
And Ms. Miller seconded.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
These minutes are not in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, is that correct? They've not been provided to the public as required.
State law section 5-7220, states that the clerk keep the minutes, but she doesn't have to, print the minutes, and she was not able to have them ready tonight.
You are correct, Ms. Sullivan, that it is incumbent upon the clerk to keep the minutes. It is part of the duties of the clerk in the city of Lawrence to prepare the minutes for submission to council.
Right.
And to my knowledge, she has gotten to the point where she's nearly completed that, but we're less than 30 days out from the date of the meeting.
But it's nothing against the law that states what we've done is incorrect. So when we have a vote on them, we can move forward.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion about solely amending tonight's agenda to add approval of minutes from December 31st? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of amending the agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Sullivan? Please speak up for the record.
Aye.
All right. Ms. Campbell?
Aye.
Ms. Whitmer?
Aye.
Mr. Lowry?
Nay.
I also vote no. So the amendment is approved, and so an item would be added as number 4, approval of minutes from the 12/31 special called meeting of December 31st. Okay. Now, before us, the second item would be approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting of December 16th. Those were previously published and provided to the public and provided to council. Do I hear any motions concerning those?
These were the regular, I'll make the motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion from Councilor Bolt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding the minutes from December 16th? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of approval of minutes from the regular meeting of December 16th, please indicate by saying aye. Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Sullivan? Ms. Campbell?
Aye.
Ms. Whitmire? Mr. Lowry? Mr. Bolt? Aye. And I vote aye. The minutes from the 16th are approved unanimously. Next is approval of minutes from the special called meeting from December 23rd. Do I hear any motions concerning those minutes, which were previously published to the public and provided to council?
I make the motion that we accept December 16th minutes with necessary correction, if any.
Ms. Campbell, or, Miller, I'm afraid you misspoke. Did you mean the 23rd?
December the 23rd, that's what I said, I said, what did I say?
I think,
16th, okay, the 23rd, we just did 16th.
yes, ma'am. All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes from the 23rd. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Discussion. I don't even have my minutes.
Here you go, I thought, I seen a correction. December 23rd.
Are there any suggested additions, deletions, insertions? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of approval of the minutes from December 23rd, please indicate by saying aye. Ms. Miller? Ms. Sullivan?
Aye.
Ms. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Whitmire?
Aye.
Ms. Flower?
Aye.
Mr. Bolt?
Aye.
I also vote aye. And so the minutes from the 23rd are approved unanimously. Now, the next item before us would be approval of minutes prepared by Counselor Sullivan from from the special called meeting of December 31st. Do I hear any motions?
I'll make the motion that we accept the minutes, special call meeting of December 31st.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
These,
We haven't received those, minutes yet, as far as written out.
Mr. Bolt, just prior to my calling this meeting to order, Ms. Sullivan presented copies at each member's station.
Will the clerk be preparing another set of minutes for next month?
It is my understanding that there is only one set of minutes that are the official minutes and records of council for each meeting. And so if this were approved, then the clerk would not complete the minutes she has already worked to prepare.
So we haven't had time to look at these to even see if they're accurate.
That is correct. Ms. Sullivan, I'm trying to understand, because this has never happened, certainly during my time as mayor, and I can't think of any other time I've ever seen this happen, to my knowledge, in the city, where a member of council takes it upon themselves to write the minutes. Can you explain why we wouldn't follow the normal course of business?
The meetings was submitted due to the clerk's unavailability to prepare the minutes. So the minutes were reviewed, and I approved the ones, went through it through YouTube of the recording. And secondary, I had already prepared to record the minutes when I didn't think she was gonna be able to be present that day. Cause remember, it was the 31st, it was New Year's. And so I reached out to the municipal association and got guidance on, what steps to take in case she wasn't able to be here. So that was, already put into place, and so we got them documented, and it's nothing against the law stating. Now, I know it's haven't happened before, but, that's my reason.
As a point of information, the clerk actually was here for that meeting.
I didn't say she wasn't here, I said when we didn't know if she was gonna be able to be here, it was the 31st, you know?
23rd. It's 23rd meeting. You know, it was questionable for me.
No, the minutes I'm talking about is the 31st.
Uh-uh.
So point of order, we raised, did I answer your questions?
I was just asking a question,
Okay,
not raising a point of order, just for the record.
okay.
May I ask a question, why were they omitted
When, well,
from the package?
Ms.
I have them 90% done. I've been doing payrolls, W-2s, end-of-year reports, end-of-quarter reports. The audit has been this month. So I've been working on benefits, administrator, payroll, job as well.
And FOIA requests.
And that's taken up hours.
But the agenda was prepared and the other minutes were in the package, so just an oversight for December 31st, that's my question. If all the other two agendas, minutes was there, and that was an oversight, so I accept that. I know that your job is busy at the end of the year and getting everything together, but, as it was said that, after we had contacted you, and you had said you was not going to be, that was a holiday, you was not going to be there, so we was going to move forward, and we was informed that anybody, according to the law, that anybody can take minutes and present.
The meeting that was questionable for me was the 23rd. I missed a family Christmas event to be here. It was not the 31st. It was never the 31st. It was the 23rd, because I had a family Christmas event that I missed to be here.
Which one was the 31st?
It's a-
It's the 23rd that I was talking about not being able to be at, never the 31st.
Ms. Sullivan, my concern is that if this is the official record of the city, of the events that took place at that meeting, it needs to be as complete and accurate as possible. And just by way of example, I'll point out Section 9, points of order. Points of order were raised by Council Member Alicia Sullivan, Council Member Calvin Whitmire regarding remarks made during discussion.
That's what.
It doesn't say what the points of order was. It doesn't say what the ruling was on that, on any of that. This is an incomplete record of what took place.
Well, that's what corrections are for.
Well, we would be able to make corrections if they were provided in the normal course of things, the way the clerk does, days in advance, where everybody has an opportunity to review them and make notes and suggest corrections. We've literally just received this minutes ago.
And that's what that's it.
But I don't want to argue with you, but what I'm trying to point out is, for the sake of the public and for other members of council, is that these are very incomplete. And it does not accurately reflect the totality of what happened and what was said.
Do you really want to put that in there?
That's my
Do you really want to put that in there, exactly what was said?
Well, to a point, Ms. Miller, I guess what I'm getting at is, if a point of order is made, that point should be accurately recorded.
So in that case, just what was said, point of order, it will be put in there as to what Calvin said and what Martin said.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Not a comprehensive transcript of the entire, meeting, because that's not the point of minutes, but if there's the need to, preserve the record, I know for a fact, just given the amount of time that the clerk has spent on them so far, that what she has prepared is more comprehensive than this. And I believe she's attempted to do it with an effort to be fair to the record and to history.
Okay. This is gonna be very interesting to see, because if you wanna go verbatim about minutes, and according to Robert Rules of Order, it will be actually what happened, what took place. So you go back and play that tape. And I think that's probably where you get your minutes from today.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it would be more accurate than what this is?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
go for it,
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
because it was awful.
Mm-hmm.
And we was just trying
I
to
would
be
agree with you,
honest.
Ms. Miller. It was, it was not this council's best day.
We
So
go
that's-
for it.
That's what you conclude, we move forward with that.
Yeah.
We go for it. Unethical.
So we have, a motion to approve these minutes. And that is what is pending before us.
She withdraw.
I withdraw.
You withdraw the motion?
Yes, I withdraw.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Miller. The motion, is withdrawn. Well, with due respect, I believe it's because it has received a second.
I second it, so she made you withdraw.
Ms. Campbell,
Campbell second.
did you,
withdraw.
you withdraw the second? Okay, all right. You have no objection to Ms. Miller withdrawing her motion?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Campbell. I just want to make sure we do it by the book. All right. Now, if the motion was withdrawn, we still have the item before us. If no further motion is made, there would be no approval of the minutes. So the item before us is approval of minutes submitted by Ms. Sullivan on 12/31. Do I hear any motions concerning those minutes? Hearing none, the approval dies for lack of a motion. So we move on to new business, which is Resolution 26-1-1, resolution of the City Council of the City of Lawrence authorizing and approving the execution and delivery of a lease purchase agreement for the acquisition of a fire truck in an amount not to exceed $900,000 and other matters relating thereto. Do I hear any motions concerning this resolution?
I move to postpone the consideration of resolution 26-0102 until the first regular city council meeting following February the 3rd, 2026.
Ms. Sullivan, your motion does not concern the resolution that is in question.
Okay.
Do I hear any motions concerning Resolution 26-1-1?
I'll make a motion, we discuss resolution 26-01-01.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Okay, so this is about the fire engine that we need desperately, correct?
I'm happy to provide council some background information. And I also have asked the fire chief to be present to answer any questions for council as well. This resolution authorizes the city to make arrangements to enter into a lease purchase agreement in an amount not to exceed $900,000 for payment of funds which are due for a fire truck which has been manufactured pursuant to a requisition form and approval, which was signed by the former city administrator on 9/5/23. At that time, the price was $822,426. So, to put this in context, after COVID, just about every city in America got some form of funds from Washington. And a good many of those felt like it was the time to use those funds to update their fire fleets, including the city of Lawrence, by the way. And we were fortunate enough through the chief's diligence to be able to acquire a ladder truck through the Forestry Service for an incredible amount. I believe the all-in price was somewhere around $50,000.
That's correct.
And but as a result of all that influx of money, fire manufacturers were very backed up in being able to produce trucks. And so this purchase order was signed by Mr. Delgado back in 2023, and then a purchase agreement was signed by the chief at Mr. Delgado's direction on 9/11/23. And then it provides for a Pierce Saber pumper. And then there was a site visit by the chief and former administrator to the manufacturer, and several change orders were made, which changed the total to $893,000. And that payment or arrangements for such payment are due upon delivery. I've spoken with the former city attorney, Mr. Flynn, and there were no directions or requests made to him to prepare any bond paperwork, and therefore we must assume that it was the intention of the former city administrator to enter into a lease purchase agreement of this type. I will remind council that this is the exact same way that the city entered into a lease purchase agreement to obtain the city's new fleet of trash trucks back in 2023. It has the advantage of not impacting our bonding capacity. We desperately need a fire truck, and Chief, you may want to speak to that. And when this is delivered in short order, we will need to have payment arrangements in place to pay for it. And so this allows that to happen. Under the terms of the agreement which was signed, if we attempt to cancel or terminate, at this point, the truck is manufactured, and so we would be responsible for more or less the whole purchase price. So that's sort of my understanding of the situation. I'm happy to answer any other questions council may have, or I'm happy to recognize the police chief to answer whatever questions council has.
I'm gonna speak. because, when we received this information about this fire truck, and just as tonight, we got what you just now said, it was on our desk about the fire truck. You informed us of all this. Thank you for giving us this information. But however, we knew that this fire truck was going to be delivered in February. Am I right? I would say it then,
The delivery date has changed.
changed again, okay. So my point is, as I said earlier, sometime at a previous, council meeting, we got to look at what on the table as far as what we are going to spend. I remember this fire truck being ordered back in 23 during the COVID days, and when we had that money and all that stuff, the grant. So, but we haven't heard anything about it until now. So that's why my point is, this is what I'm talking about, being informed and communicating what's going on, rather than sitting here fighting little nitpick stuff. But I appreciate this information, but we're just not getting it, and to keep us in good standing and good steward and keep our, rating. I'm definitely for, if we order this truck, we're going to get this truck. And I don't believe in like throwing a rock or hiding the hand or sending it back because we don't have the money. No, that's not the city of Lawrence. And we don't operate like that. We are bigger than that. And we are bigger than all this bickering that we are doing. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm through, because I'm about to cry. But we're gonna get this fire truck.
I agree with Ms. Miller.
Council and Mayor, may I speak just real quick, briefly? So the current delivery date is scheduled for the 25th of February. At that point, we will have to go to Florida for the second trip to do the final inspection of the truck. Anything that we find wrong with it, we put blue tape on this truck. They will fix before it even leaves Florida. So they said normally, unless we find something major, you're looking at about a week. So then it would travel from Florida to Spartanburg, to Spartan Firing. That's who we signed the purchase order agreement with. At that time, they will do a PM service, check it over, and at that time is when funds will have to be delivered to them. If we will have about a week or two grace period. After that, the truck will start building interest as it sits, and we won't be able to take delivery until we've satisfied the bill. So we're looking at probably having to secure funds around the 15th of March, is what the salesman has told me today. In your packet, I have reached out to two bank lenders. I think the last truck that we bought was UCB may have financed it. We can reach out to other people and to see who's going to give the best rate. These are just two that are recommended through the fire truck industries that deal with fire trucks for loan purposes. So just to kind of give an example where we're at. This keeps us right on schedule. We've done this in the past. We try to, every 5 years, roll the engine in. It's going to be replacing a 28-year-old truck that had issues that it was not in good enough shape to be in service, to respond to emergencies. However, it could be used as a training truck. We was able to sell that truck to the high school, so we are down a truck. Just last week, I believe it was, we was one breakdown away from having to rent a truck from City of Clinton. Luckily, myself and Assistant Chief Edwards was able to restore our other truck back to service to keep limping on. And that truck right now that's in service is 12 years old. That's answering calls today. So this purchase definitely keeps us right on track. It's something we've been doing in the city of Lawrence for quite some time, just looking at our history. So, unfortunately, the prices of the fire trucks have doubled. That's something that different people has complained about. So far, we're not, nobody's getting anywhere on reducing the cost of fire trucks. The price of this fire truck doubled from our last truck that we bought, and it's pretty much the same exact truck.
Many things, what is the life of the ones that's broken down now?
The one that's broken down now that I'm having trouble with is 12 years old, and it's part of the DPF system. Something else, when we signed in September of '23, if we prolonged, we only had like so many slots. It was going to cost the city an additional $150,000 to go into the 2026 EPA emissions. So we was able to reserve a older emissions motor, which saved over $100,000 to the city. So that's one issue I'm having with the truck that's in service now is the DPF system. We had talked about what they call deleting it, which is taking that off, but as y'all know, that is against the law. There is some fire some fire departments that are doing that, but what really scares me away from it is that I've heard horror stories that they paid $3,000 or $4,000 to have it deleted, and then the truck would not pump. So then you basically have a truck that would not pump. So it's something I wish the government would relax a little bit on the fire service, but that's kind of what we do. I don't know if that answered your question or not, Ms. Miller, I'm sorry.
I want to make clear, Ms. Miller, I agree with your comments as well. And I don't want to give the impression that I'm insinuating that there is anything improper about the former administrator's handling of this, because as the chief pointed out, there is a regular rotation that we put in place that began back when Mr. Coleman was the city administrator. Because the former administrator left in November and we are now in January, it is 100% conceivable that it was his intention. I mean, I have to believe it was his intention to prepare this and present it to council in the time that, according to the timeline that it's now come before council. So he just hasn't been here to do it. And I want to respect the law in going about things the right way. I'm not going to indebt the city or obligate the city on my own in a way that wouldn't comply with the law. There are things that council has the prerogative and responsibility to take on, and so that's why I'm bringing it to council. I can't read the former administrator's mind, but given the fact that he did not reach out to the bond attorney to have the bond attorney begin bond paperwork, this seems to be the way that would comply with the law that makes the most sense under the circumstances. And so what we're simply asking is that council assist in providing the truck that we need, that we can afford, but that we need city council's assistance to finance in a legal way.
So, wasn't Tommy Thompson our attorney when this was in '23?
I believe at that point he still was. I was not involved.
Did he sign off on the, this agreement here? I believe he did.
No,
He know about it?
I have not
Have you checked
asked him
his
about
record?
that specifically.
Okay.
I have some questions and concerns about the procurement process, but in my mind, it's neither here nor there. because we've got a truck that's been built, it's about to be delivered, we gotta pay for it, or we'll have to pay for a penalty and for paying for nothing.
So he is doing the research as far as contacting the bank, financing and whatnot? Are you doing that?
To this point, the chief has looked at financing, but I would, if council moves forward with the second resolution tonight, appointing Mr. Thompson as city attorney, we would work with him to secure that and make sure it was done properly.
We are without a city administrator. We are without an attorney. This is weighing heavy on me.
And we're being asked to obligate city funds. Yeah, it is a lot.
In essence, Ms. Campbell, the city administrator obligated us to funds when that agreement was signed. And
23, and no discussions have been made since 23. It's not written up on a board, a checkoff list. At some point, we need to start the funding, and there were no conversations had in Monday morning meetings with department heads. We can liken it unto having Counselor Sullivan's minutes here on our desk when we sat down. Surprise.
well, let me.
And I
I'm sorry.
don't mean anything negative about the minutes. She was trying to fill a hole. This is just, it's a lot.
I would agree with that. Ms. Campbell, because you specifically brought up the Monday morning roundup meetings that we have with staff, those are very brief meetings, which are intended to be about 10 minutes in length, specifically for the purpose of addressing sort of operational needs and things that are forward-looking for the week ahead.
That's how your director meetings go? You're going from week to week?
Well, those aren't the only discussions we're having, but that Monday morning roundup is for that specific purpose, yes.
Well, just like with the raises, it's not that we don't want them. It's not that we don't want a fire truck. It's just that we don't want to look up one day and wonder where's the money?
So, Ms. Campbell, I think you raise a very good point. You're right to have concerns. Those are the same concerns that I shared. This matter was brought to my attention following the former administrator's departure. I'm really not trying to get into a discussion about procurement and whether or not the city's policy was followed. I think it's clear that it wasn't. I mean, just to be very blunt about it, council is required to have pre-approval on contractual obligations greater than $50,000. That did not happen. And I learned that this was signed by the administrator 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
No, we talked about this. We talked about this in 23.
We knew that we were ordering it, but there was no discussion of financing. Those are the things that the city administrator was tasked with leading up. And to my point earlier, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus in this situation because I can't know what I don't know about what his plan was. I can only assume at this point that his intention was to bring something just like what I have brought you, because that is the only method of being able to do this outside of a general obligation bond. And having talked to our bond attorney and former city attorney, no instructions or request was made to prepare a bond. So this would be logically the way that that would be paid for by Eric. And in the time frame, he very easily could have brought this up for first reading at the December meeting in good and proper order, and we could have had the kind of discussion we're having now, and there would be nothing out of the ordinary course of things, because this sort of follows the cycle of replacing trucks that has been established.
So, can I add one more thing? The last conversation I had, in regards to, the truck. So we have a line item for the new fire truck. It was like an ongoing line item. Once one's paid, next one moves over. So the plan was to up that line item in the 26, 27 budget year, because no payment will be due until we establish it. We can even establish that payment all the way up until June of 27 was when our first payment would come out. So nothing has to be changed in this budget year as far as payments. And like I said, this is a line item, it's a reoccurring line item. So can't speak for him. However, I do feel that this would have been brought more attention in the 26, 27 budget year, if that makes sense.
Okay, plenty of times.
Neil, did you have any discussions with our former administrator about can you elaborate any more about any discussion you had as far as the financing and the timeline and updates and any of that sort of thing you may have had?
So the original plan, we was gonna up that line item 2 years ago to go ahead and get used to paying that. I actually would find out the day of our workshop with council, when I got a packet that it come out, and I had spoke with him before then. I was like, hey, what was our game plan? Originally we was gonna have that line item up. He said, we're good this year, we'll deal with it next year. Next year, same thing, when me and Assistant Chief Edwards would sit down and do our budget workshop with Mr. Delgado. We recommended putting that line item on up, to cover the cost, because we know we got a truck that the price is going up. To try to keep us on that same rotation of 5 to 6 year, which is gonna be extremely tough. I think the city can do it, but we're gonna have to make some changes. However, same thing, come budget workshop, open my packet up, and that line item was not in there. It was back to the original. So, the only thing I can say, Mr. Lowry, is that I really feel like that it was gonna be, that line item was gonna go up in the 26, 27 budget year, because he knew no payment would be due until then. So that may be why it was not on the radar at the time, if that makes sense.
Did you or Mr. Delgado get periodic updates on the progress of the truck?
So I get updates now. For a long time, our truck just sits idle until they finally done the drawings in March, April of this year, of 2025, I'm sorry. Then we have to go down and do what they call a pre-construction meeting. Any changes.
Who went down there?
So it was myself, Assistant Chief Edwards, Lieutenant Eric Morse, and Eric Delgado.
This was in April?
April, yes, sir. We flew to the factory in Pierce. We spent 2 nights. It was a full workshop day, and we go through it every line item. Anything that needs to be changed, because, our first meeting was in 23, now we're in 25 talking about the same truck. From then, the final drawings were assigned. They sent them back for approval. Then our truck just sits in limbo until they get ready to start bending metal. I believe they started bending metal around September. And when I say bending metal, they completely fabricate this truck from a flat sheet of metal to what it is today. The last update, I'm getting a little bit more updates now, get them on Friday. And right now, our truck is in the assembly line. The frame, they're wiring, they should be dropping the motor in, the cab's built, the pump panel's built, and the body's built. It's painted. most of it's already wired, so our truck will be one total unit, probably with less than 2 weeks. And then once it goes through the assembly line, it comes in as a frame, and it drives out the other end, so it will not be put back on the back burner again.
So, I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure that simply because of the questions that were raised earlier about an agreement that was signed in 2023 and them not hearing anything, it's not that they were working on this piece of equipment since 2023. There's been no activity to work on it until about September.
That's correct.
So, in April, you got drawings.
Yes, sir.
So you knew your truck was, you were gonna get it in the budget year 25, 26.
Yes.
But yet,
26.
is there clarification, there wasn't a line item in the budget for it?
So there is a line item, but it was still dedicated to the final payments of the truck that we have now. So, we would have been told if we finance through any of these companies that we can defer the first year payment.
Okay,
So,
but, no, I don't mean to interrupt, just a second. So, the line item was for the truck you have now.
that's correct.
It wasn't for the new truck, even though in April, because you went to Florida to look at the truck, you knew we were gonna get it this year.
Yes,
So we should have basically either had two line items, one to pay off the truck existing and another for this new truck that we're talking about right now,
That's-
correct?
that's correct.
And that was not included by the budget prepared by the city administrator?
That's correct.
Did you request that it be added to that line item?
No, ma'am. Well, I requested that we up that line item and pay more on the truck to get us on that schedule. From my understanding, because I did not purchase the truck that we have now, my understanding our truck was on a 5 to 6 year, plan. I have later found out that that was an 8-year term. So my recommendation, was to increase that line item, by a small amount, which would have that truck paid for. So I also have in this, to where if we need to, we can roll over the small amount that's still hanging on that truck into our loan, so it's just one payment. The line item does not have to move up much at all.
That's what I thought that we agreed on, that when we finish completing the payment of that truck, then we'll just keep that, line item to continue to roll over to the new truck.
Yes, ma'am, that's kind of been the practice for
That's
a
what I
good
thought.
while. That's
Okay.
correct. Now, obviously, there's gonna have to be some increasing on that line item.
Because
When you
it's
go
new.
from $430,000 fire truck to almost $900,000 fire truck,
Right.
that hurts. That hurts.
But
For the 25, 26 budget, we didn't increase it at all,
No, sir.
not to cover the new truck.
No, sir.
Cause we were still paying on old.
Right.
And we'll still be paying on the old one for the next couple of years, correct?
I think we'll have,
Unless we do a rollover, which,
And what he just said
That's correct.
make plenty sense, it wouldn't be that big an increase.
Right.
So like I said earlier, everybody entitled to question, but to keep what we got and keep our reputation, our ISO rating, we move forward.
you brought up a very good point, Ms. Miller. Our ISO rating, we're required to have 4 engines. Because of the other engine that was having issues that were, if we were to replace the tank that was leaking in the other truck, it would have been more than what the truck was worth. And it was perfect truck for them to use as a training truck for the high school. Everything's just kind of fell in line. So right now, we've been operating with 3 trucks. Just ISO was supposed to be here yesterday. Because of the snow, they're gonna reschedule. They'll be back in a week or 2. So we're in the middle of another ISO inspection.
But they are aware that we're getting a new truck, so
Oh, yeah.
that's why it's important that we get that new truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
No question. And my ears gone.
I hope I've been helpful.
are there any further questions for the chief? All right. Is there any further discussion on this matter? All right. Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of approval of Resolution 26-1-1, please indicate by saying aye. Ms. Miller? Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Sullivan?
Abstain.
Ms. Sullivan abstains. Ms. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Whitmire?
Aye.
Mr. Lowry? Mr. Bolt? I also vote aye. So the matter passes by 6 votes with 1 abstention from Ms. Sullivan. Thank you, council. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. And thank you, Chief, for appearing tonight and helping enlighten us so we can make the best decision for the city.
May I ask a question? Oh, it's
Maybe.
okay. I'll make a statement next one. I get it.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Moving on, the next item before us is a resolution 26-1-2, resolution of the city of Lawrence, appointing Thomas J. Thompson as city attorney for the city of Lawrence upon such terms and conditions as may be agreed by Mr. Thompson and the city and other matters relating thereto. Do I hear any motions concerning this motion? Or this resolution, excuse me?
I make a motion to amend resolution 26-0102 with updates to include acceptance of Attorney Thompson as an interim attorney, include, request that Mr. Thompson be present during city council meeting with updates to correct and allow open communication with the mayor and city council members, maintaining adoption of proposals, and also to include an understanding of, the, amount that we will afford him as our attorney, including benefits.
All right. We have a motion to approve the resolution as amended by the oral motion of Ms. Sullivan listing several terms and conditions. Is that a fair statement? All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I too have something to say. As a backdrop, here's what is understood. According to the Municipal Association of South Carolina, which we, the City of Lawrence, are a member, the responsibilities of the city attorney in a strong mayor form of government in South Carolina include providing legal guidance to the mayor, city council, and other city officials, representing the city in legal matters and court cases, drafting and reviewing city ordinances, resolutions and contracts, training and educating city employees and officials on legal issues related to their duties, ensuring compliance with state and federal laws, and protecting the city's interest in legal disputes. For these reasons, it is understood that the city attorney plays a crucial role in the smooth functioning of the city's government and the protection of the rights of the city residents. As we formulate the terms and conditions under which we consider appointing Thomas J. Thompson, Esquire, as our city attorney, may we make it clear that we are adopting the same expectations as laid out to us by the Municipal Association of South Carolina. In addition, I suggest that we consider the appointment as an interim position to give us time to invite other appropriately qualified attorneys, and he is also, to apply for the position. Naturally, this process would not prevent Attorney Thompson from formally applying for the position. That is not the goal of this formal submission to our city records, but rather it would potentially allow us the ability to vet an array of choices to choose from in the very near future and further down the road if necessary. Also, I suggest we return to our precedence of having our elected attorney prepared with the expectation of attending our monthly meetings in person to serve with transparency and continuity as our legal voice and guide. Finally, I suggest that we make the lawyer of our choices salary and contract details available publicly. According to the South Carolina State of Administration, the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act provides that all compensation for city employees, officials with earnings equaling $50,000 or more may be released. Compensation below that amount is available only in ranges. Disclosure of our city attorney's contract details and compensation would serve to allay any future confusion as we diligently work together to meet the needs of our beloved citizens, our beloved city. So for these reasons, I believe we should accept Attorney Thompson as our interim city attorney until we are provided with more disclosure and understanding of the expectations of this vital office in our city. And I'd like for it to be recorded in our records, please.
Without objection to Ms. Campbell's request, the clerk will include that with the minutes of the meeting. Ms. Campbell, I would like to say that I think many of the points that you raised are well put. Members of council at our December 31st meeting spoke in favor of Mr. Thompson and in an effort to, one, meet the city's very urgent need to have legal counsel, and two, have counsel that members of city council, legal counsel that members of city council had faith and confidence in. And certainly, I have nothing but respect for Mr. Thompson. My desire in bringing this resolution before council was to follow the desires of council expressed at our last meeting to meet the needs of the city, and to do that in as timely a fashion as possible. Many of the details that you raised regarding compensation and other terms, Mr. Thompson wished discussed after it was expressed, after council expressed its will whether or not they wish to engage him. Obviously, if there were terms that weren't to his liking, he wouldn't necessarily have to sign on. But I have absolutely no objection to making that appointment on an interim basis. In fact, I can say in my brief discussion with Mr. Thompson, in which I asked him about his interest in serving in this role once again, it was his suggestion that it be made on a periodic basis, subject to renewal. So I think the approach that is being suggested here is not only wise, but it meets. It sounds like it matches his expectations. So as far as having the terms of the city attorney match the guidance and the expectations of the role set forth in the municipal association, by the municipal association, and their best practices, I think that is absolutely what we should do. And so that was maybe a really long-worded lawyerly way of saying I don't have any objection to what was suggested. So since I have a call to take a vote, to restate the motion as I understand it, we would be approving Resolution 26-1-2, appointing Mr. Thompson on an interim basis. And the details of any engagement would be provided to and subject to the approval of council. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All those in favor of passage of resolution 26-1-2, please indicate saying aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, the resolution is approved. I should have said this previously and forgot to. Mr. Thompson was willing to be here tonight, but given the fact that this appointment had not been made, he felt that was unseemly and premature, and I respect his discretion in that respect. And so now that this appointment has been approved, we can expect his normal attendance, and I very much welcome that. Okay. That brings us to the end of tonight's agenda. I thank council for their very thoughtful discussion. Are there any other motions for business before council? Hearing none,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting tonight and hope everybody has a blessed, happy, and safe new year.
we have a motion. If there is no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.
I just have a question for both of you, actually. The minutes